Another artwork by an artist with links to the Goodman Gallery in Johannesburg is again at the center of controversy. Elegy, an artwork by contemporary artist Gabrielle Goliath, is under the spotlight after the Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie withdrew South Africa's participation at the 2026 Venice Biennale, where Goliath's Elegy was to be showcased at the South African pavilion. McKenzie's justification: he says he didn't want South Africa's pavilion to be hijacked by an unnamed foreign government. Elegy deals with the killing of women and children by the Israeli Defense Force in Gaza since October 2023. It's worth recapping that this is the same Goodman Gallery that, in the name of artistic freedom, once defended the spear, Brett Murray's 2010 painting of then-President Jacob Zuma, unveiled in 2012, depicting him with genitals exposed in a Lenin-style pose. So what has changed? And who decides what South Africa shows the world in the name of art? Let's unpack all of those themes. I'm joined by Daily Maverick journalist Niren Tolsi and author of the article and independent curator, art historian Percy Mabandu. Good afternoon to the both of you. Niren, let me start with you. A great deal of work that you've put in as Daily Maverick into unpacking the story. There's another element that has to do with the ending of the relationship between Gabrielle Goliath and the Goodman Gallery. But for the sake of clarity, let's start with this story of Elegy. It's one of those that you really need to get into to fully understand. Give us the story thus far. Why is it controversial that South Africa will now not be participating at the Venice Biennale?
Well, Tolsi, thank you, firstly. The Venice Biennale is a bit like the World Cup for football. So the minister post facto a very transparent selection process, intervening to say, no, I don't like this selection for X, Y, and Z reason, in this case, which seems to be kind of Zionist reasons, is the equivalent of Hugo Bruce, the minister also deciding that, hey, Hugo Bruce didn't select Themba Zwane for the AFCON, so Bafana Bafana are not going to go to the AFCON. It's not his position to make such a decision.
So you're saying ex post facto, Niren, if I stick with you for a moment. What do we mean by that? Mm-hmm. What do we mean that these justifications are coming ex post facto?
Well, so post the selection process, and then post the minister essentially censoring and cancelling Goliath's work after a transparent selection process, he deciding that he has some executive authority to say, no, I agree or don't agree with this piece of art for whatever reasons. And the reasons he gives is that essentially in his letter dated the 22nd of January to the organizing team, the 22nd of December to the organizing team, he states that that he doesn't want South Africa getting involved in these divisive political issues on the international stage which relate to Gaza and the genocide there. Goliath's work, part of Goliath's work deals with the Gaza and the genocide in Gaza, but it also deals with femicide in South Africa, which is an issue that the president has declared a national crisis. It deals with the deaths of LGBTQI plus individuals in South Africa. It deals with the Herero and Nama genocide perpetrated by German colonial forces in the early 1900s. And all of this, I think, is inherent in our fabric of a post-colonial South Africa and a post-colonial Africa, but the minister decides, after a transparent process where a selection committee which represents the sector has decided, and one which is highly regarded in the sector, decides on the artist, decides, well, I don't like this work because what I want is happy art that will not challenge us, but instead kind of sell the country. And that is his own words. And I put it to the minister, I've yet to receive a response, is the notion of selling the country, not the Department of Tourism. Yeah. Isn't that their job? I mean, we should be really encouraging artists to be independent-minded and to be free-thinking. And also, he states in his letter that there seem to be issues with the content of Goliath's work when it comes to Gaza. But the thing is, the president has talked. We are at the ICJ fighting a case to have the Israeli Defense Forces actions in Palestine declared genocidal acts.
Yeah.
The president has declared a national crisis around femicide in South Africa. If these are not South African stories, then I don't know what is.
Yeah. Let's bring in Percy Mabandu, who is independent curator and art historian. Percy, I'm sure you will have been following this controversy quite closely. What have you made of it? Just the content of Elegy itself, and then the actions taken by the minister in saying that if this is the piece we are going to be displaying at our pavilion, actually, we shouldn't even go. We're not even participating.
I think the minister is out of pocket. Thank you for having me. I think the minister is out of pocket. I think the minister, one, is not being honest about the reasons for doing what he has just done. I think that there are other interests to which he is responding, because clearly the artwork is much more closer to South Africa's policy position in terms of the Gaza story and internationally. We are the country that took Israel to the International Criminal Court on the basis of what they're doing in Gaza, so that the artwork that we would have been showing in Venice is much more in line with our foreign policy position. So it's out of pocket there. Secondly, if you follow the sequence of events as nicely outlined by my colleague Niren Tolsi in his articles, you can see that the minister is not being honest about what he's done. I think the artwork is one of the best artworks, or one of the best ways in which creatively we could have dealt with this issue, because it shows that the issues around the death of women and children in Gaza is not an isolated event in the story of the world, but it connects with other genocides, you know, the Nama and the Herero, our own issues with the issues around Palestine, you know, South Africa and the occupation of the land of Palestine, 1948, when the state of Israel, you know, was instituted. It's 1948 when the apartheid state was put in power in this country. So we share a lot with the people of Palestine. Nelson Mandela says that our freedom will not be complete without the freedom of the Palestinians, so that the artists and the organizing committee that was putting together our pavilion in Venice are much more in line with our national policy positions than the minister is. What we should also be asking is why the president, who has been leading the charge on how to position the country and the state on Gaza, has been silent when a member of his cabinet is clearly out of pocket on this important issue, especially the issue that we are wrestling with other big powers around, right? I mean, our position on our relationship as a country with the United States, for instance, which is affecting our economy and so on, you know, is at stake here, and the minister is out of pocket on this very crucial issue.
So to the untrained, in fact, Percy, let me stick with you. To the untrained eye and someone perhaps listening with a sympathetic ear to what the minister has argued, why this area of our endeavors as South Africans that falls in line with our policies at international relations, why not a theme that perhaps is more, perhaps in the eyes of some, more South African? It seems, I don't know, you know, without being happy art, as Niren was talking about earlier on, but that perhaps would critique the scourge of corruption and how it steals from the poor in South Africa. Why does this matter that it should be at our pavilion in Venice?
So we are the country that, more than any other country in the world, have pioneered the idea of protest art. South African artists have been at the heart of how to define liberty, freedom of expression, and all kinds of repressions around the world. If you look at South African art history, there is a body of work called protest art, which stretches to, you know, posters that we used to push back against the tyranny of apartheid and colonialism. You look at the work of, you know, some of our most important musicians, from Chico to Bongeni Ngema to Abdullah Ibrahim. So the idea of art dealing with serious human rights issues and bringing it into the context of culture is a uniquely South African heritage. So the artists doing this are more in line with South African heritage than the artists who are just simply painting flowers that we have on Table Mountain and so on. So it is a uniquely South African activity to use art to highlight the struggle of others in the world.
Niren, let me come back to you. In addition to what we've been talking about, there's also the other thread of the story where the relationship between the Goodman Gallery and Gabrielle Goliath has come to an end. And in the story that you wrote, you relate how that was communicated to her. Is it coincidence, or can we draw links and parallels to that situation, a relationship that had lasted, what, a decade?
Well, yeah, just over a decade. The Goodman Gallery have stated that it's coincidence. Whether it is or not, I think at this stage is up to the South African public to make its own opinion upon. I mean, look, the Goodman Gallery is one of the most successful commercial galleries in the country, and the people who run it are smart. They know where. They know the financial landscape in the art world now, which is shrinking. They know where hopefully they can spot a good thing when they can, and potential to increase revenue. So I mean, I think that decision, they would say that it's coincidental. I mean, it seems a bit odd, but perhaps it is coincidental.
Yeah. In fact, before I come back to you with the same question, Percy, to jump around a little bit there, Niren. In terms of what the minister has decided and this participation of South Africa, he talked about a foreign government that he says it doesn't want our pavilion to be hijacked by an unnamed foreign government. Who is he talking about?
Well, initially he made that allegation to me in responses to questions that I'd sent him last week, Thursday, just on deadline, as we published the first expose about this issue in the Daily Maverick. Since then, it has emerged, firstly, in Israeli publications that this foreign government is Qatar. As soon as he'd made that allegation to me on Thursday, I'd immediately sent back a message saying, but who is this government? It sounds like a vague conspiracy theory. I need more information before going to print. I didn't get a response, but then the Israeli media announced that it is Qatar. And in my piece published yesterday in Daily Maverick, I've drawn a chronology which links actually not Qatar, but the Qatar museums to an initial interest, which dims at some point in acquiring a piece